You think she's avoiding you, right? That little distance she keeps, the way her texts go cold just when things start to feel real, you feel it gnawing at you. But what if I told you it's not what you think? It's not disinterest, it's fear, a deep, almost invisible fear. She's scared, scared of catching feelings, scared of losing herself in someone else, scared of being vulnerable to the one person who could actually matter. And most men never notice it because fear wears the same mask as indifference. But you, if you pay attention, can read the signs, understand what's really happening beneath the surface, and use that knowledge to connect with her in ways most men will never understand. When a woman starts pulling back, it triggers your brain in a primal way. You feel that rush, that sudden spike of insecurity, that temptation to chase. But here's the truth, and it's brutal. Chasing will never unlock her heart. Chasing will only confirm the fear she's trying to hide. What she needs is space, not pressure. She needs a man who sees her fear and doesn't run from it, who can hold his own stability while she wrestles with hers. This is the invisible line every man must learn to walk. Because the moment you panic, the moment you act desperate, her subconscious screams, "He's another risk. Better keep distance." Notice how she hesitates to make plans, cancels at the last second, or keeps her messages short but polite. Most men interpret this as rejection. They take it personally. They text, call, beg for attention. But here's the key. She's not pushing you away because she doesn't like you. She's terrified of what liking you means. She's afraid of opening the door to emotions she can't control, afraid that if she lets herself feel, she might fall. And falling feels dangerous because she knows the stakes are high. Her heart, her trust, her self-respect, and she's watching you, analyzing every micro-expression, every word, every slight pause. She's gauging whether you're stable enough to handle what she cannot yet admit to herself. Here's the first hidden truth most men miss. A woman's avoidance is often the loudest signal of her attraction, but it's twisted. It doesn't come as warmth or teasing, it comes as subtle withdrawal. She will flirt with restraint, smile with hesitation, laugh with guardedness. Your job is to recognize the signal under the noise, to feel her hesitation without judgment, to mirror calmness when she's anxious, to show strength without being cold. This is where most men fail. They see the withdrawal and panic. They interpret fear as rejection. They misread psychology for disinterest. But once you understand her fear, you stop chasing, you stop reacting, you start observing. And in that observation, you gain the power that most men never will. The power to connect without coercion, to be a safe harbor when her emotional storm passes. Notice the moment she lingers, the tiny glances, the accidental touches that she doesn't pull back from entirely. These are breadcrumbs. These are her heart whispering the truth she cannot say aloud. Fear does not erase attraction. It amplifies it, often making the emotional undercurrent stronger than a woman who's entirely comfortable. When you catch these signs, and only a man with patience, awareness, and restraint will, suddenly the game changes. You're no longer chasing. You're guiding. You're understanding. And she's noticing your stability, your emotional intelligence, your ability to stand tall when everything around her screams panic. This is how you step out of the noise of the average man's desperation and become the one she subconsciously leans toward, even when she's trying not to. Here's something most men never realize. When a woman distances herself, she isn't testing you. She isn't playing games despite what your ego wants to believe. She is battling a storm inside, a storm built from past disappointments, heartbreaks, and the constant pressure of vulnerability. Every time she lets herself feel a spark for you, a part of her screams, "Stop, this is dangerous." And what you see as coldness is actually self-preservation. Her mind is scanning for signs of emotional safety, evaluating whether opening up could cost her more than she's willing to risk. This is why patience becomes your secret weapon. Not force, not panic, patience. Calm patience allows you to exist in her orbit without threatening her defenses and its almost invisible power. The subtlety is everything. Watch how she reacts when you communicate. Not just words, but energy. Does she pull back slightly when you get closer emotionally? Does she laugh, then immediately become serious? Does she touch you in fleeting moments, but not hold contact for long? These micro signals are her fear whispering to you. And here's the crucial part. Do not overanalyze them. Do not chase or demand explanations. Simply acknowledge them internally and respond with a quiet, unwavering presence. A woman who is scared of catching feelings will instinctively test boundaries. She will flicker between warmth and withdrawal, attraction and hesitation. Your role is to remain the constant. You are the eye of her emotional storm. Now, let's talk about communication, the invisible battlefield where most men lose before it even begins. She may avoid deep conversations about feelings. She may deflect or she may joke when you try to get close. This isn't because she doesn't care. It's because care terrifies her. When she shows humor or light teasing, she's attempting control over her own emotions. Her mind is screaming, if I laugh, I won't fall too hard. And your response will either validate her fear or reduce it. If you panic, if you chase, if you demand clarity, you confirm her subconscious suspicion that feelings are dangerous. If you stay composed, emotionally available but not invasive, you create an unspoken safety net. You demonstrate that closeness doesn't have to mean losing yourself, that attraction can exist without annihilating her stability. This is the invisible dance few men understand. Another layer, she will often test your emotional boundaries without even realizing it. She'll drop hints, flirt in fragmented ways, speak about the past, or touch on vulnerability, but she will retreat when it gets too close. Most men misread this as disinterest or confusion. It's neither. She is mapping your emotional terrain, discovering if you can navigate the peaks and valleys without triggering fear. When you respond with controlled confidence, she subconsciously begins to rewrite the narrative she's been telling herself, that closeness equals danger. Your steadiness acts like a gravitational pull. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, her fear begins to coexist with desire. Finally, consider how often you see her hesitating before intimacy, physical, emotional, or even just a conversation that leans deep. These hesitations are not arbitrary, they are checkpoints. Each step she takes, each moment of hesitation she allows, signals a small victory over her fear. She's inching toward you carefully because she knows the cost of misstep, and she's silently testing whether you will respect her pace. The men who fail are impatient. They misread the hesitation as rejection and they push. The men who succeed notice the rhythm, match her pace, and become a source of calm instead of chaos. And here's the harsh truth most men never face. Fear can be stronger than attraction. If you misstep, her fear will win every time. But if you master this dance, you unlock something rare, a woman drawn to you, not just for desire, but for the stability and understanding she's been starving for. Here's the part most men completely miss. The little things she does when she's scared of catching feelings are more revealing than anything she says. Watch closely. A woman who is terrified of emotional attachment will instinctively test your patience, your composure, and your understanding. She'll send a text that seems casual, but lingers with layers of meaning. She'll smile in a way that feels fleeting, almost guilty when your eyes meet. She'll touch you lightly, not too long, not too short, but enough to communicate interest without fully surrendering. Every one of these actions is an unconscious signal, a breadcrumb trail to her inner world, and a map for you if you're wise enough to read it. Notice the timing of her attention. When she's afraid, she will fluctuate between engagement and withdrawal. She might respond quickly at first, then go silent, or she'll show up in your life unexpectedly, then retreat just as quickly. Most men panic at this inconsistency, labeling it as mixed signals or playing games. But here's the secret. These inconsistencies aren't games. They're fear-based self-regulation. She's trying to balance the pull toward you with the fear of emotional exposure. And the man who understands this doesn't react impulsively. He observes, remains emotionally anchored, and subtly reinforces a sense of safety. He becomes a constant in a sea of uncertainty, which is precisely what she unconsciously craves. Look at her body language. What she isn't saying often speaks louder than words. Her feet may angle toward you when you're talking. Her gaze may linger just long enough for you to notice if you're paying attention. She might laugh nervously at your jokes, even when they aren't that funny, or find small ways to touch your arm or shoulder without realizing she's doing it. These are instinctive signals of comfort mixed with hesitation. She's drawn to you physically and emotionally, but her fear keeps her from fully leaning in. Recognizing these subtle cues and responding with calm reassurance is where most men fail and where the rare few excel. Another hidden sign: her willingness to share fragments of her inner life. She won't spill her heart openly, not yet, but she will test you with pieces of vulnerability, an admission about her day, a fleeting mention of a past disappointment, or a joke that hints at a deeper emotional state. How you respond to these fragments determines whether she pulls back further or inches closer. Respond with judgment or impatience, and you reinforce her fear. Respond with measured empathy and respect, and you silently communicate. I can handle your depth. I'm here without judgment. This is where trust begins to form beneath the surface long before words of love are ever spoken. Then there's the unconscious projection moments when she mirrors your energy even subtly. If you remain calm, confident, and composed, she instinctively matches it. If you display desperation or insecurity, she recoils. Women who fear catching feelings are hypersensitive to emotional energy. They don't need words, they read vibration. The man who masters his energy becomes irresistible without effort. You don't push, you don't plead, you simply exist as a stable force, and she gradually allows herself to feel more, testing the waters of her attraction with each small, cautious step. Finally, notice how she reacts to your absence. If she's scared of catching feelings, she won't chase you overtly, but she'll leave subtle signs that she noticed you weren't there. A lingering glance, a playful jab, a brief message that seems casual but carries weight. These tiny acknowledgments are proof that she's emotionally aware, that her heart is quietly active, even if her fear makes her behave otherwise. If you read these signs correctly and respond with steady confidence, you create an invisible pull, a gravitational field of trust and attraction that fear cannot entirely resist. And it is in this space, this careful, psychologically tuned into play, that connection truly deepens. Here's the truth that very few men grasp. Her fear of catching feelings isn't a problem to fix. It's a signal of depth. It shows that what she feels for you has weight, that it matters enough to trigger caution. And this is where most men go wrong. They try to solve it. They push. They overanalyze. And in doing so, they destroy the very attraction she's testing. The men who succeed do the opposite. They embrace her fear, understand it, and use it as a guide. They adopt a mindset of quiet authority, emotional intelligence, and patient observation, which is far more compelling than charm, money, or intensity. Start with your own. Stability. A woman scared of feelings will subconsciously measure you against the storm she carries. If you are reactive, anxious, or desperate, her fear spikes. But when you demonstrate calm, when your energy remains consistent regardless of her push and pull, she begins to relax into the possibility of closeness. This isn't manipulation. It's mastery of self. It signals that connection with you doesn't demand surrender or risk. It promises safety. And paradoxically, safety is the most seductive force for someone wrestling with fear. Next, embrace the power of absence. This is subtle but devastatingly effective. When you step back strategically, when you allow space without panic, she experiences the gravity of your presence. A woman who fears catching feelings is constantly gauging whether the man she's drawn to can hold his ground without clinging. Your absence is a mirror to your confidence. It tells her, without a word, that your value isn't dependent on her attention. And here's the secret. Absence creates curiosity, and curiosity ignites emotional investment faster than pursuit ever could. Another critical shift is your communication style. Words are less important than consistency, tone, and emotional alignment. Avoid over-explaining, justifying, or pleading. Instead, speak with calm clarity. Acknowledge her feelings without judgment and offer gentle engagement that doesn't demand immediate reciprocation. When she shares small vulnerabilities, respond with measured warmth. When she pulls away, remain composed. The interplay between her fear and your steadiness becomes a magnetic field she cannot ignore, even when she tells herself to resist it. Also, learn to mirror without mimicking. Women who fear catching feelings are constantly scanning for emotional attunement. If you can subtly match her energy, neither overwhelming her nor retreating entirely, you establish rapport that bypasses conscious resistance. It's not about games, it's about subconscious alignment. When she senses that you understand her emotional rhythm, she begins to let her guard down almost imperceptibly, trusting that being near you won't destroy her control. Finally, cultivate unpredictability but within boundaries. Women afraid of feelings crave safety, but they also respond to subtle signals that life with you will never be boring. Small gestures, unexpected messages, or quiet confidence in the face of her hesitation inject tension and interest without threatening her stability. Fear and attraction are intertwined. When handled correctly, her fear becomes a catalyst, intensifying her desire rather than suppressing it. The man who can navigate this intricate dance of patience, understanding, and controlled unpredictability is no longer just another option. He becomes a rare force, someone who evokes both longing and trust, desire and respect. The ultimate mindset is this: understand her fear, respect it, mirror her pace, and remain unwaveringly yourself. When you achieve this balance, her avoidance ceases to be a barrier. Instead, it becomes a signpost pointing toward genuine emotional connection, a roadmap that only the patient, aware, and disciplined man can follow to the heart she's secretly offering. Now it's time to move from understanding to action, from observation to subtle influence. The point where knowledge becomes power. You've seen her fear, her hesitation, and the small cues that reveal her attraction. The challenge now is to use that insight without breaking her trust or triggering retreat. First, create emotional safety. Every interaction must communicate silently and clearly. I am here. I respect your pace. I will not demand more than you can give. This is not weakness, it is magnetic strength. Women who fear catching feelings are unconsciously searching for a man who can hold space for them without pressure. And when you provide that, attraction deepens effortlessly. Start with small, consistent gestures. Let your words, your tone, and your actions align. Notice her moods. Respond with calm empathy and make her feel seen without overwhelming her. When she retreats, mirror patience. When she opens, engage gently. Each interaction builds trust, and trust is the bridge from fear to desire. Women who are scared of emotions often suppress longing, but when they sense that the man in front of them is steady, safe, and emotionally intelligent, they begin to lean in, even without realizing it. You become the anchor in a storm that she's been navigating alone. Next, employ subtle escalation both emotionally and physically without forcing it. A lingering touch, a meaningful glance, a slightly deeper conversation. These are all signals that she is safe to feel more. Timing is everything. Push too soon and her fear spikes. Wait too long and her curiosity wanes. The key is balance, controlled, confident progression that mirrors her comfort zone while nudging the boundary of her fear just enough to spark excitement. Every step should leave her thinking, he sees me, he understands me, I want to be near him. Encourage her to express herself in ways that feel safe. Ask thoughtful, low-pressure questions about her thoughts, dreams, and subtle feelings. When she shares, validate without judgment. Reflect her words back in a way that signals comprehension and respect. Women afraid of feelings often experience guilt or shame for their own vulnerability. Your calm acknowledgement transforms that anxiety into curiosity. She starts to associate closeness with relief, attraction with emotional safety, and you with someone who is rare in his capacity to handle depth without fear. Finally, maintain your own life, your own intensity, and your own boundaries. A woman who is scared of catching feelings is drawn not to desperation, but to independence. Show that you have your own goals, passions, and standards. Do not collapse into her emotional waves. Instead, let her observe your stability, your consistent value, and your ability to exist fully while she navigates her fear. This combination of emotional strength, patient engagement, and subtle influence creates an almost magnetic pull. She can't help but be drawn closer, curious, and invested, all while feeling she is in control of her pace. Remember this: her avoidance is not rejection. It is a silent test of safety, stability, and patience. Her fear of catching feelings is a gateway, not a barrier. If you respond with understanding, composure, and strategic empathy, she will transition from hesitant attraction to emotional investment without even realizing the steps you guided her through. The man who masters this is not just desired, he is respected, trusted, and unconsciously prioritized. So, here's the question for you right now. Think about her subtle signals, her hesitation, her glances, her tiny touches. If her fear is 70% and her attraction is 30%, how do you balance your energy to shift the scale without breaking trust? Write your answer in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who needs to hear this. You now know what most men never notice: